In every city, there is someone who disappears in plain sight, not because they are invisible, but because fear has taught them to hide. This is the story of a young man whose life changed because of one simple habit that took less than 3 seconds. His name was Hao. Hao lived in a peaceful mountain village surrounded by bamboo forests and narrow stone streets. Everyone knew who he was, yet very few truly knew him. He wasn't famous. He wasn't talented in sports. He wasn't the loudest person in the village. People remembered him for one reason: he could barely speak to anyone. Whenever Hao walked through the market, he kept his eyes fixed on the ground. If he noticed someone walking toward him, he would quietly cross the street or pretend to be busy looking at something nearby. Even making eye contact felt frightening. A simple hello seemed impossible. Many villagers misunderstood him. Some young people whispered that he was strange. Children sometimes laughed because he always looked nervous. Every small laugh felt much bigger inside his mind. Little by little, Hao accepted the story that fear kept repeating. I'm not good with people. I'll embarrass myself. I'll never change. Hao lived with his elderly aunt, who owned a small grocery shop near the village entrance. Every morning he arranged vegetables, stacked rice bags, cleaned the shelves, and counted the day's earnings. He had an amazing talent. He could solve numbers faster than almost anyone, but numbers weren't the problem. People were. Whenever customers entered the shop, his hands became cold. His voice almost disappeared. Sometimes he forgot to ask for payment. Sometimes he returned too much change. Occasionally, customers walked away before he could even speak. At the end of each day, the cash drawer never matched the records. His aunt became more disappointed every week. One evening, after another day of missing money, she sighed heavily. How your heart is kind, but kindness without courage cannot protect your future. Those words stayed with him all night. The next morning, Hao carried 2 empty buckets to the village spring. The path was quiet except for birds singing in the trees. Near the spring sat an elderly man feeding fish in a small pond. His name was Master Feng. As Hao filled the buckets, Master Feng smiled. Young man, why do you speak with the ground instead of people? Hao froze. No one had ever asked him that before. Something about the old man's calm voice felt safe. Without realizing it, Hao told him everything. He spoke about the teasing, the fear, the mistakes in the shop, the disappointment he saw in his aunt's eyes. Master Feng listened without interrupting. When Hao finished, the old man smiled gently. You don't lack confidence. You simply haven't trained it. Hao looked confused. Master Feng stood up. Stay with me for 2 mornings. I'll teach you something that sounds too simple to work. Although uncertain, Hao agreed. Before sunrise the next day, Master Feng woke him. They walked to the entrance of the village. Today's lesson has only one rule, Master Feng said. For the next 2 kilometers, greet every person you meet. No speeches. No conversations. Just one sincere greeting. Hao's heart immediately began pounding. His first thought was to run home, but he remembered why he came. The first person approaching was an old fisherman. Hao whispered, Good morning. The fisherman smiled warmly. Good morning, young man. Nothing bad happened. A little farther ahead, 2 schoolgirls passed by. This time, Hao spoke a little louder. Good morning? They smiled and waved. As the walk continued, he greeted a baker, an elderly couple, a woodcutter, and a woman carrying flowers. One after another. People smiled back. Nobody laughed. Nobody judged him. For the first time, Hao realized something powerful. Most of the fear had existed only inside his imagination. When he returned, Master Feng asked, What did you learn? Hao answered quietly, People were never as frightening as the stories inside my head. Master Feng nodded. The mind builds prisons. Action builds the key. The following morning, Master Feng gave him one final lesson. Now return home. Practice every single day. Hao thanked him and walked back to the grocery shop. His aunt was preparing to visit a nearby supplier. Before leaving, she hesitated. "Can you manage today?" Hao took a slow breath. "Yes, I'll do my best." Soon the first customer entered. Instead of lowering his head, Hao smiled. "Welcome. How may I help you?" The customer smiled back. Throughout the day, more people arrived. Hao greeted each one. He counted carefully, collected every payment, returned the correct change, spoke slowly but clearly. Each customer made the next one easier. By evening, the shelves were tidy. The accounts were perfect. Not a single coin was missing. When his aunt returned, she checked everything twice. Then she looked at Hao with surprise. "What happened?" Hao smiled. "I stopped hiding." Weeks passed. The villagers began noticing the change. The young man who once avoided every conversation now greeted everyone with calm confidence. He wasn't the loudest person, he wasn't the most outgoing, but he no longer allowed fear to decide his future. Real confidence rarely arrives all at once. It grows quietly. One greeting, one small conversation, one uncomfortable step at a time. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward even while fear is still walking beside you, and sometimes, one simple good morning is enough to begin changing an entire life.